Hello, everybody. Welcome to Codename Goodgame, Episode 2. And with Episode 2 being a thing, last week I had some things to fix. But, this week is a lot slower. But we got some big things we're talking about. Competition. What's a good comeback story? And, what it takes to do that. Maybe some little topics, some shout-outs. And, of course, I have brought back Josh from Quest Mode. I have the 2 panel on now, Josh. Good to have you back for the first 2 episodes. And, yeah, how's it going, first off?
It's going well. Had a bit of a busy morning and glad to be here relaxing now and get to talk video games. Not sure anyone tuned in, but we got to talk video games yesterday and now today. So 2 days in a row. So that's actually like a treat. I love talking video games and good to be here. Yeah, talking some GTA 6, some Microsoft and Sony going back and forth. So yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah. And yeah, we literally did. It was kind of a surprise, just on a personal note. We were both on Game On Daily yesterday, and Josh mentioned to me last week he was going to be on. And then, I found out right afterwards, hey, Tony, you want to be on too? I'm like, what? So that was kind of a funny event. But something we did last week, and again, I want to reiterate, Codename Goodgame is the new show I'm starting up. That, these are the first 5 or 10 episodes. We're working it out. I'm getting better and better as we go. I'm a lot more calmed down nerves this week. But something I didn't do last week that I always want to do in these shows is, one, we start off getting to know the panel, bring up a for fun topic that I do have, maybe something that from our patron community, Joey, shout out, glancing at the chat. But something I didn't do last week was, even though Josh and I have collaborated a lot, I didn't really get to reintroduce the community to you. I felt like, Josh, I personally was thinking about that after. I'm like, man, I didn't let him plug in. I didn't let him, talk about what he's into or anything. So I kind of just wanted to give you the spotlight for a second of, maybe you as a gamer for 30 seconds or so and maybe talk about your channel and just what you do. So yeah, I just want to give you that moment to do that.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. Well, I have a YouTube channel. It's called Quest Mode, and on Twitter I am Quest Mode Games. So if you've run into either of those, you'll be familiar with what I do. But I've been a gamer since I was a kid. My first video game I ever played was the original Super Mario Brothers on the Nintendo Entertainment System, and that was when it was current. So you can do the math and figure out that I am an old man, basically. And after that I ran home, or I guess probably more realistically was driven home since I was a little kid, and told my mom, we have to get this thing. It lets you play games on your TV. And 2 weeks later or something, she came home with one. So I was very fortunate that it worked out that way for me. And, I wish I could say the rest is history, but I was kind of in and out of video games as a kid. It really didn't grab a hold of me until I was a teenager, and I played 2 games in particular, Super Mario 64 and Metal Gear Solid. Those 2 games really just enraptured me and fascinated me, and it was those 2 that really told me okay, this is going to be a lifelong hobby for me.
Dude, I'd totally argue that those 2 games they shot the gaming generation into a totally new era, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And that whole kind of PS1, Nintendo 64 era, there are a lot of games in there that really stuck with me. Resident Evil 2, GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie, Final Fantasy VII. So that's kind of the era that really hooked me. And gaming was my main hobby for a long time. I did fall out of it, as I mentioned yesterday, kind of during the PS2 generation, because that's when I got my career in marketing going. I work in marketing, and I have kind of my boring other life, and that's part of it. And so I kind of fell out of it. But then I during, it was 2010, 2011, I realized, man, I remember loving video games so much, and I got a Wii and I got a PS3, and from then on it really is all history. I just have
from then on
played.
Yeah.
So from 2010 to 2011, I've just played tons and tons of video games. Can't stop thinking about them. Can't stop.
Is that when you realize maybe it's your favorite pastime? You think?
Yeah, I think so. It's when I realized that it was like it's like a lifelong hobby. This wasn't
Yeah,
like a phase
that's a
from
good way
my
to put it.
teenage. It wasn't a phase from my teenage and early 20s. It's something that, I'm gonna be doing this until I'm not, which I anticipate is until I'm
Yeah.
either not able or not around anymore. So yeah,
S-
so that's me as a gamer. I already mentioned, those are some of my favorite games. I guess some of my more favorite current games: Dishonored 2, Hitman 3. I've really gotten into stealth games
Mhm.
lately. The Arkham games are huge favorites of mine. Assassin's Creed Odyssey really was a game that took me by surprise. So those are some of the games that have hooked me more recently.
Yeah.
So yeah, there
And
you go. And I don't know if I just started my channel because it had also been kind of a lifelong dream to be in games media, but I kind of missed that boat, when I was in, getting my other career started.
sure.
So in that opportunity wasn't really available to me. I was just like, I'm just going to do it myself. So I started a YouTube channel, and I had some good success in 2020 with a Cyberpunk and a PlayStation 5 video that I made, and those kind of confirmed to me that yeah, I should keep doing this YouTube thing, and it's been up and down since then. But yeah, that's kind of me in a
Yeah.
nutshell.
Yeah, and seriously, there is some long videos on your channel, but it's because of like how much research you put into it, the exact like B-roll and evidence of what you're talking about. Like I've said this every time I talk about you, but I'm just seriously like one of the most quality content I've seen out there in terms of just production value and what you've put into it. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
well,
awesome.
thank you. I think in order to like stand out on YouTube, you've got to stand out. You got to do something that is not really done yet by other creators. And I feel like one of the things I do is it's kind of a combination of an insane amount of research that I put into my videos, which that's why there's so much information in my videos, and then the level of polish that I try to put into each video as I edit it, and put the sound in there, the music, and the make sure the footage lines up with what I'm talking about. Not that other YouTubers don't do that, but I do feel like the combination of those two things makes my
Can
content
I
stand
just
out when people
can I
watch
just
it.
get like a voucher for you? Is gathering, if you're watching this and you ain't a YouTuber, I'm curious if Josh is gonna agree with me on this. Is one of the most painful parts of putting together a video finding like the exact, like just getting the footage for it? I feel like that's something that's very underestimated potentially because it's like a tedious thing. It's not hard, it's just tedious, but I've
Well,
always felt it
it's
was.
it's tedious. There's two different types of videos that I do in terms of finding footage. One is I'll be covering a game that's not out yet. In that case, it's just a matter of
Yeah.
gathering all the preview footage that the publisher has released, and that's a cinch. But
Yes.
if it's a review that I've done, like my Dishonored 2 review,
Yes.
I recorded probably 5 to 6 hours of or more of footage of me playing that game, and I probably overdid it. But then I've got to, yeah, it's like if I'm talking about a particular gameplay mechanic, I've got to go back and scrub all that footage to find the exact
Like
clip that
what
shows me doing that.
represents that? Yeah.
Yeah, and that is a pain.
Yeah. So, anyways, I just kind of want to put a spotlight on Josh because I put in the chat, or if you're watching the replay of this, he's in the description. The chat also. Nightbot is active. If you're curious about commands, if you're watching live, I think this is working. I'll test it out now. Exclamation point command. You could see stuff. Maybe, I don't know, but it's just exclamation point guess, exclamation point Patreon, exclamation point question. I think is the three. Yeah, he's not popping that up. But anyways, yeah, there's topics to get into today. But really quick, just a little for funsies thing that I did see a patron sent in that I thought would be fun to get a take on before we dive into some really kind of big picture stuff. Where is this guy? Right here, Mr. Joey. Joey's a love you patron. And he asked, what, in your opinion, is the best example of a hard but fair difficulty a game has had? And I admit, he asked this the first time, and I was trying to figure out, can you rephrase that? like, what exactly do you mean by that? And he's just basically getting at, like, is there something you have played before? And I'm asking, like, if you're watching replay, chat, and Josh, I'm like, just putting this out there to everybody. Is there a game you've played before that you, like, you felt this is hard, but it totally like this isn't ridiculous, or it's not cheese, or it's not bullshit. When I think about this, I somewhat think of, believe it or not, I'm really into Back 4 Blood. Back 4 Blood was a game last year. Yeah, that was like in my top 5. And something I love about that game is the difficulty. I had a friend, like a new friend that hopped on it, and he's like, oh, it's okay. Let's just play on whatever normal is. The easiest mode in this game is harder than normal. Like the easiest mode, there is no easy. Like you have to always be challenged, and then just the stats are going to get messed with as you go up. And I've always felt that that is a game that I didn't feel like it was absolute BS, because it really just depends. The higher difficulty you go, the more teamwork it's reliant on, and how well you've made your character or whatever. But so it's both skill and progression in the game. That's what I thought of. I don't, and FromSoft is the whole entire debate. But Josh, what's a game that comes to your mind?
So I'm going to go with a FromSoft game, because those games are known for their difficulty, and they're known for people. I think there are people who aren't interested in those games because they play them, or they play one and then they bounced, and it's like, this is too tough for me. But the one that I felt was, I do think it's probably the easiest of all the FromSoft games I've played, and I think I've played all of theirs, is Dark Souls 3. And that is the one game I would recommend to if anybody out there is like, if Elden Ring didn't get you, but you still have an itch to try and get into Dark Souls games because you see people, talking about them online or whatever. Dark Souls 3 is the one where it is hard, but it is not it's not nearly as punishing as like Sekiro or even Bloodborne, I don't think. Like, you play that first boss, which you play it in the first probably half an hour of playing the game. And he will crush you at first, but I can almost guarantee, not quite, but I can almost guarantee that if you stick with it and you try and learn the moves of that first boss, you'll beat him, and you'll just be like, there's nothing like beating your first FromSoft boss.
Yes,
it is such a
absolutely.
Experience.
There's something about because and I haven't played. You're way more experienced with FromSoft than me. My first experience really is Elden Ring, and just hearing of many stories from a friend of mine, and I almost thought of that game actually, but I admit I throw a fit if I literally die in like 2 hits or 1 hit. I'm like, what? It's so, but.
And he does, any boss in a FromSoft game will have an attack or 2 that can basically do that. And the other thing about Dark Souls is it has 2 or 3 bosses that are really going to give you a hard time. And it varies from player to player, which those are, but that's different from like Sekiro or Bloodborne that will have like 5 or even 10 bosses that might really, test your patience. So I would say if you're going to, and the other thing with Dark Souls 3 is it's much quicker and more responsive than Dark Souls 1 or 2. It still has that kind of slow, lumbering movement, but it's much more modern. And I would say that's a great game to start. If Elden Ring didn't manage to pull you in, so that'd be the one I'd go with.
I think I've heard that too. Okay, so we're gonna jump in some. I'm gonna say news from this week. There's just 3 things I wanted to hit, but they're 3 things that even if you're not necessarily into gaming news, I literally ran these by a friend who's not so into the gaming scene. And he's like, each of these things, the way you wrote it, could potentially be an entire episode. And I'm like, we'll find out. We'll find out. But yeah, gonna be kicking off some news. Or actually, was there a loading? Oh, I think I do have a loading graphic. Hang on. We're gonna load in some news. I forgot I have a graphic for this. I forgot I have that. So yeah, first thing really quick, and I'm hoping what we do is this first one, maybe 10 minute, second one, 10 minute, and then the last one is probably a big open one, maybe 10 to 15. I hope we meet that, but we might not. And then the last 10 or 15 minutes of this stream, we're going to just take a look at the chat and do a round of 20 questions. We will see if I can keep that, though. My goal is under an hour and 20 minutes. We will find out. But the first topic today, This happened last week when we had our first episode, and Josh literally said during the show, dude, those GTA 6 leaks though. like we're playing 20 questions. And that happened last week. And I think if I can switch over here, we have, let's see. Rockstar did confirm that the GTA 6 leaks were real. Now, this game is not necessarily titled GTA 6 or anything, but I have on screen an article from IGN, which basically Rockstar put up a tweet acknowledging that they did recently suffer a network intrusion. And it sounds like they either got the guy or somebody involved in the party of how this happened, but just Rockstar confirming these leaks are real. One, I think that's kind of, transparently good of them, in my opinion, just to not be around the bush and be like, no, that wasn't it. But at least now they are being out about it. We were talking about Game On Daily, how other developers were kind of sort of helping to stand for them and show their games in early development, because some people didn't like how the game was looking. But Josh, very brief thoughts about the GTA 6 leak, because I have a version of this topic that I kind of want your take on, as well as the communities about leaks in general. But character models look good. Environments look good.
Yeah.
What else looks good?
Yeah, I thought...
Because you said wow last week. I want to put that out again. You said wow, so...
I did, and I remember, so I was like, actually, so I'm a night owl. I was up really late the night that it happened, and so I saw it as it was breaking. People were like, it was like one of those break the internet moments. People were like, oh my God. Like
is this real?
Exactly. And so I was like, that was exactly my question. Is this real? So I looked for the clips, and which I know some people have issue with, but they're out there. I wanted to see this. And when I first saw the clips, I was like, first off, I was like, yep, 100%, this is legit. So that I think speaks to how good these clips looked, given that the game is 2 to probably 3 years off. That would be my estimation. And
yeah, I would agree.
So yeah, I could see. I thought again, the woman. I don't think there were no clips that I saw of a male protagonist. It was all the female protagonist. I thought she looked pretty good.
There was a bit. Like he had I think he had kind of like a baseball cap on or something, usually tank top, and yeah, there's definitely the guy and girl. I definitely saw the guy. Mostly the girl though, you're right.
But like I think her hair wasn't really moving, so that was funny looking, but overall I thought she looked good. And then I just looked closely at the city, and I'm like, give this another 2 years and this city is going to look like the word that came to my mind was like, it's going to look photorealistic pretty much,
Is it based off Miami? Or because I remember that coming up before.
It's Vice City, which is based off, at least as far as I know, it's the fictional version of Miami. So yeah, there was like a sign that said VCPD for Vice City Police Department. So people were confirming based off that, and probably some other things that, I didn't play Vice City all the way through. So I'm not the guy to ask, but
I haven't played it.
I know that they confirmed that it is Vice City. But yeah, I thought it looked good. Yes, it clearly is in development. So there's unfinished. That's what I would say. It doesn't look bad. It looks unfinished. Big
totally.
difference there.
Yeah.
And but so yeah, and then I have a whole lot of other thoughts on it, but I do think that this is unfortunate. I think these types of leaks are very bad, where you're basically leaking two things. You're releasing intellectual property that is legally owned by someone else. You don't have the right to do this legally, anyways. And then it's hard work that people have put into this, the developers.
And it's not ready. They don't want to show it when it has all the graphs and stuff on it. And yeah. Not the state
and I mean, like these developers, they're working on one of the biggest games in the world. And, imagine for the developers who haven't worked on a game this big, like this is going to be their time to shine. This is going to be like when you're going to be able to tell your friends and family, like, check this out. Like this game is going to take the internet by storm. It's going to be a worldwide event, and I'm working on it, and you get to see it. They don't get that moment the way that they imagined it now, because everybody has seen their kind of in progress.
So you're kind of
that's been robbed from these people.
Yeah, exactly. You're kind of diving into the way I wanted to pitch this to just anybody, like whether you're into GTA or not. Leaks are a situation that are just, they are something that's becoming much more frequent these days. And for it to be Grand Theft Auto specifically, as you said, one of the biggest game franchises of all time, seriously, that's why this is so notable. And like you see hashtag GTA 6 leaks trending. But the question that I want to propose to people is, are leaks just going to become more and more standard in this industry? Because it seems like that's the direction we're kind of going. And also, sometimes, is that something that companies might tend to just do? There's something about like Forge recently for Halo Infinite that got, I'm gonna say leaked. It was a very accidental coding thing, but the community is publicly using it now, and some speculate maybe they did that on purpose. And when Kingdom Hearts 3 was coming out, there was a leak of, this Monsters Inc. world, which, as a Kingdom Hearts fan, that was a bummer to see that world revealed in that way. And with the internet how it is, you're going to see thumbnails and titles, and it's hard to, some just say, well, don't look into it. But when it's in front of your face, how do you avoid it? So obviously my take on leaks going forward is they're definitely not going to go away. I personally don't like them. I know some people that they get excited about it because they want any breadcrumb they can find. Josh, what's your take on leaks, and do you think that they're going to figure out how to slow them down?
I do think there are a few factors that could slow leaks down. I do think they are here to stay, and I think that there are probably some instances where companies leak things on purpose. Yeah. Now, that's just me speculating. I have no information, but like Ubisoft is a prime example. I'm like, can you really not keep any game you ever make secret? Or there was another game where, it was the recent Tomb Raider leak. I don't know if anyone was paying attention. There was a leak where they basically it was revealed that the next Tomb Raider is going to shift focus, and Lara Croft is going to be older, more experienced, and she's going to have like this, she's going to be kind of like a mentor, it sounded like, to other Tomb Raiders, which made it sound like maybe there'll be some sort of multiplayer slant on it. I don't know. And I am kind of paraphrasing. Anyway, that one had a flavor of like, maybe they're releasing this information to see what the reaction is. And so in that sense, maybe it was done intentionally. Anyway, I'm getting a little off track here.
Yeah, it's a potential test. Like, what do they think of this little thing? But yeah, who knows?
Yeah. So I think that, but anyway, I do think that leaks, there are always going to be people leaking, and there's always going to be leaks. But two things. One, I feel for this, even though he did bring this on himself. This hacker that they arrested in London, I'm not sure if they've confirmed that he is the guy, but I think Rockstar is probably going to make an example of him, and hopefully people get the picture that if you leak information that is leaked illegally, you can go to prison, and your life can basically be destroyed if you do this. It's
not something to take lightly. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is, which I think is also more unfortunate than that, because, again, that guy brought it on himself. But, companies like Rockstar might not allow their employees to work from home, because I think that a lot of these leaks, like the Diablo leak was a different thing. But, when you're working from home, you have to send builds back and forth over the internet to different, computers. And I'm sure there's gameplay footage that's shared on Discord and stuff, which I think is how the GTA leaks came about. And if you just keep everything under one roof, and basically if Rockstar is basically like, no GTA 6 assets leave this building, that would probably make it more difficult for stuff to leak. So I think that if companies crack down on that, make it it sucks for employees who like to work remotely, but if that changes, then I think that might cause leaks to be less frequent.
And there's some things in the chat I wanted to kind of read off here. As Patrick is saying, people can say they disapprove of leaks, but most are lying when they say they do. I feel bad for the devs because it's still early on in production, but leaks are inevitable. Crazy that it happened at GTA, and that there's a part true to that, where sometimes we'll say we don't like leaks, but then it's like what we see in the leaks is cool. As you said last week, wow. But then there's Steffi in the chat saying she hopes that leaks aren't, continuing to rise. Leaks are an unwanted surprise for me. I like the build-up, and hype for an official announcement, which same thing. The hype and build up to a game, to me, sometimes to me is better than the actual game, because like it's a longer experience sometimes, just eating those breadcrumbs. And when one just, as she says, an unwanted surprise, yeah, you might think that breadcrumb is tasty, but you wanted it in the right way, kind of a thing. So
100%. Yeah, like when the GTA leak hit, I wasn't thinking to myself, "Oh man, what a bummer." I was thinking, "Ooh, this is interesting." But if you were to ask me, would I have preferred that leak not happened? 100%, I would say I prefer.
Yeah, are you happy it happened? No. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah,
So-
when it comes, I'm like, yeah, I'm interested. This is this is a big news day, and I'm going to be glued to Twitter for a little while. That sort of thing.
So that's GTA. Let us know what you think in the chat. Well, not even just GTA, but leaks in general. Do you want them to go away? Do you have a hard time resisting them? Let us know in the chat or the replay comments. The next thing, though, comeback stories. Did you ever have a game that you thought, or even just a franchise as a whole, that you just thought, man, it's too bad what happened to it. I don't see it can make a comeback after this. Well, recently, Cyberpunk got to experience something like that. Cyberpunk, the game that a lot of people were thinking, what a terrible launch. They're going to have to move on to whatever's next, has had a massive resurgence the past week. And it's crazy. Like, there was something previously, right here, this is Video Game Chronicle, I believe, that you see on screen. And Project Red was even saying, like, Cyberpunk is now attracting 1 million players daily. And this is something recently, like, that was posted this weekend, I guess, from Benji Sales, that the peak amount of players has managed to, and I don't know if you knew about this, Josh, surpass The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt on Steam recently. It managed to pass their previous game that got so much praise by like just 1,000, but still managed to do it. And so to say that Cyberpunk got a comeback it's an understatement. It managed to actually do it when it had such a controversial launch, which is great. And the way I want to potentially pose this, first off, was this entirely due to a recent anime called Cyberpunk Edgerunners? I don't know if you guys have seen the chat or if you're watching this. It's an anime that just came out on Netflix. I'm scared to show any footage of it because anime is so weird on YouTube with copyright. But yeah. What do you think, Josh? Is it entirely because of Edgerunners, or is there anything else in play?
I don't think it's entire. I think that's a big part of it, especially since Edgerunners is getting such a great reception. But I don't think that the player count would have gotten even close to that had CDPR not been putting in the work to make the game more polished and to turn it into the game that, or at least closer to the game that we all expected back in 2020. I think it was a 2020 release for this game. So yeah, had they just released this, like, let's say that they had in another universe said, Cyberpunk was such a big disaster that we're going to cool the jets on that game and we're just going to focus entirely on The Witcher 4. Mm-hmm. And Cyberpunk was basically in the same state that it was in when it released. No, this would not be happening. So I think it's due to, some hard work at CDPR, some dedication to that game. And also the announcement, I don't think this really factors into the big player count, but the announcement that they have a big DLC expansion coming, I does think instills some faith in people that if they play this game now, there's more to come down the road. So I think they've just played their cards right. They played their hand at launch horribly. They basically did everything wrong at launch. But since then, I think they got the picture. And they've been doing everything. It seems like they've been doing everything right since then.
Did this game release? Was this in December last year, or was it 2020? I think it was December 2021.
So I want to say it was initially announced for a December 2019 release, and it was delayed.
It got delayed at least twice, I think. But
let me look it up because I want to say it was actually delayed in Or maybe it was December that it released.
I think it came out in December last year. Feel free to look that up. But
Okay.
basically, what I find interesting in this is that if it was, if it hasn't even been a year yet and it made this comeback, I'm with Josh. Like, I definitely think Edge Runners, with the popularity and praise that it's gotten, was a big part to play in this. And also, they're trying to get players' trust back by giving a 10-hour trial, which is really cool. Maybe it's 5 hours, like 4 or 5. It's a really long trial that you could just try this game for free. At least I see it on an Xbox. And announcing DLC content coming to it too. Now that it's like they've ironed out the kinks, maybe. But the thing that I really am curious about, and by the way, Josh, did you look it up? Is it December?
December 10th, 2020 was the initial release.
2020.
Date. I believe so. Let me go back to the.
If it's 2020, then okay.
December 10th, 2020 was the initial release date.
Okay. See, I thought it was 2021. And I was like, wow, that's a fast comeback. But yeah, it was during COVID when it released. Yeah. Okay.
Like, it was kind of the height.
So that's more than a year. It's not quite been 2 years, but still, it's possible. And so, basically, to the chat, what does it take, and to you, what does it take for a franchise to make a big comeback? That's kind of a really broad topic, and I hope we can figure out a way to condense our thoughts here, but because Cyberpunk did it, There's, obviously the elephant in the room with, peeps that are into me is Halo Infinite. I don't want to go on a rant about that, but that's an example that a lot of us are hoping it has a similar comeback story. How long it'll take, who knows? It took Cyberpunk almost 2 years. And it's a single-player game, and it did that. And there's other games, too. I'm trying to remember that. Oh, No Man's Sky. That's another good example of, I feel like that was like 3 years later, maybe.
Yeah. Final Fantasy 14 is another great example. Launched.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah. So what's like two things you think that should really be done to get people to come back?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Or the chat? I would
both.
say two things come to mind for me. One is dedication. Like, you have to be committed. Like, yep, we're going to do this. We're going to make this game better, and we're not going to listen to the haters online because like when Cyberpunk or any of those three games, No Man's Sky, Cyberpunk, and Final Fantasy 14, I'm sure there were plenty of people who were just saying this game is dead on arrival and you might as well just move on from here. But the studio was dedicated to it. And the other is a vision. I think you have to have a clear vision of what you want that game to be. I think Sean Murray and Hello Games had that with No Man's Sky. They weren't able to achieve that vision. I definitely think they had it with Cyberpunk. I bet at CDPR they still haven't achieved their vision of what they want Cyberpunk to be, or what they initially imagined it could be. And then
they still have a multiplayer that they want to do.
Yeah, totally. Which I think was a whole separate game. I'm not sure. I wonder what's going on with that. But anyway, I think those are the two things, like dedication and vision.
Yeah. And I would agree with you on those. If I said to, I think it would be, I do think it's important to have something big to market, like something big that pulls not only fans in, but potentially the broader audiences. And my example, I've told people about Infinite, where it's like, oh, how do you think that game could be revived? Well, the show didn't work out. Cyberpunk had a show, and that's like a big marketable thing this game did. But, a lot of people love Halo campaigns. That's why they go to the games a lot of the times. And so if they have a big DLC thing to market, maybe they market that like holy hell. And they just promote all the other stuff that they've added to the game since launch while they're at it. And that could be a way.
Yeah.
So I definitely think something big to market. But you have to do that after the core fan base is like they admit finally this is in a good state. And maybe that's another thing Cyberpunk did too. They had a trailer for new DLC. That's my example. They had a trailer for not just the anime, but new DLC. And maybe that's another reason that people are like, I think the game's finally where they want it to be, so I'll finally give it a shot now, and now that they know there's new stuff coming. So maybe that's another way. But the question to everybody else, how do you think a franchise can come back? It doesn't even have to be the game world. If you feel the same way about like Marvel or Star Wars, you can say that too. Let us know in the comments or the chat. How does a franchise make its return? Okay,
Just
Josh.
one real thing that is rolling around in my brain here. Another I don't want to dwell on this too long, but another interesting franchise that for me has come back from the dead, pardon the pun here, you'll get that in a minute, is Resident Evil. Because that game,
instantly
like Resident
knew
Evil
where you
5,
were going. Yep.
Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6, like that franchise was on a pretty steep downward trend. And then I think Capcom saw what they were doing with one of gaming's most beloved franchises, and they're like, let's go back to what made this franchise great. And they did that with Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 7 to an extent. But now that franchise is just alive and kicking like never before. So
yeah, Resident Evil 7, like I was telling people at the Game Awards that year that Resident Evil 7 was nominated for direction. It better win. Like as much as Breath of the Wild that year was like spectacular, I'm like, no. Direction-wise, they are reinventing their franchise, and that's maybe what you got to do. Is maybe a reinvention too. Maybe that's another way of doing it. But for something that's already out, that's the tricky part. Where you want it to be long term, that's tricky to bring back. I do see GMA saying lots of free updates and patches, fixing the broken aspects of the game. You have to give a lot back to the community and meet what you originally marketed, then make bigger new content to advertise. Yeah, I'm in agreement with that, GMA. That's pretty much what I was getting at. So our last topic, I'm going to say, and then we're going to maybe have speed run of other stuff. Check the chat if you have anything else. You can at us in the chat, at Samurai QG, at Quest Mode, if you have anything maybe to shout out after this. But, Josh, last week, when I had you on for the first episode, you literally said the words of, it'd be really cool to talk about what a healthy console war competition really is. I forgot how you phrased it, but that's how I kind of heard it as. Yeah. And I agree. Like I said before, these are very broad topics that could be their entire own episode. We will see what we can do here. But the surface level trigger to this is, of course, the whole Acti Bliss thing. And if you're not into the deal, don't worry, because I want to phrase this question in a way that everybody can hop on it. Because I admit, I'm a little bit tired of hearing about this deal too, but I think it's kind of an interesting question to ask. So you can see on screen here, basically Microsoft CEO, I always mess up his name, Satya Nadella, he got asked about, I think it was actually for a whole thing about Microsoft in general with, I don't remember who, but this is on IGN. And his statement, he's talking about the deal, but he said something interesting about, it's going to fall under scrutiny. And of course, in his words, of course, any acquisition of this size will go under scrutiny, but we feel very confident that will come out. I don't think it's about him being confident it'll come out that I want to talk about. I want to talk about him saying, he brings up Sony, our main competitor, one of our main competitors, has also acquired studios, including big ones like Bungie. So he continues, if this is about competition, let us have competition. That quote, I think, is the main thing I want to focus on, because we could go multiple directions. But if this is about competition, let us have competition. And I don't want to necessarily talk about, well, Microsoft has this, Sony has that. But as you said last week, like, what is a healthy console war? And my thing I want to add to this is, what does competition do? What does it create that could be the good and bad? And my absolute summary of it is, the bad is the flag wavers. And the term fanboy has come out. And I've always not liked that term, because I think people should be fans for things. But that term has become like such the word toxic one. I'm trying to use the word kind of tribal or whatever. That's the bad of the console wars, is some of the peeps that try to make it spread like an actual toxic fire. The good of it is what the consumers get out of it. They get certain deals. They potentially get more projects developed. And that's because if you're into anime like I am, you got a rival pushing you to do more. You have a rival that's pushing you to become better and to keep getting better. And that is an immense summary to me, is that to me, the bad, it creates some toxic fans, and that the bad talk is a lot louder than the good talk, in my opinion. And then the good is it creates potential opportunities to grow from and literally deals things developed. But Josh, what's the good and bad of having a competition between potentially Microsoft and Sony?
When 2 or 3 or more companies are competing for market share, they have to come up with good ideas that are going to make their consumers happy enough to spend money on their product. So, anything that, so if Sony or Microsoft were just dominating right now, and it was not a close race at all, then that company could basically do what they wanted. So Sony, for example, or PlayStation, the fact that they put, this is kind of a small example, but the fact that they put Stray as a game that people who were paying for their, not the premium, but the extra tier of PlayStation Plus got at no extra cost, you can pretty much thank Microsoft for doing all the stuff they've done for that. Like the fact that Game Pass kicks so much ass is why PlayStation is doing
PlayStation 5 collection that they kicked off.
Exactly, the PlayStation 5 collection. So if you buy a PlayStation 5, you get a lot of first-party games at no extra cost via PlayStation Plus. That's PlayStation competing with Microsoft and Xbox Game Pass. And you can actually thank Game Pass, or you can thank Sony for kicking so much ass in the PS4 generation. That's why Game Pass, I mean, that's not the only reason, but I would argue that's the biggest reason why Game Pass exists at all. What's his face? Don Matrick, screwed up so bad at the Xbox One launch. The Xbox One generation never really caught up with PlayStation 4. They brought in Phil Spencer. I don't know whose idea Game Pass was, but I'm sure Phil Spencer had a lot to do with it. They're like, let's come up with something that is going to really disrupt what Sony has established on the PlayStation side of things. They have Game Pass. So that's what competition does.
Yeah.
It breeds innovation. It makes companies get creative. It makes companies have,
and it's almost what they could do at the time too. Like that's what we can take to the forefront right now. Cause we'll make the quality games, but this is something that we can do right now. And if people catch on, they're going to potentially have to do it too, but we're going to be first to do it. That's another part of competition, is who does it first, kind of a thing, and who might continue to do it better. Sorry,
you see it go back and forth. If you go all the way back to the Xbox 360, which the Xbox 360 and PS3 generation, Xbox was winning that generation for the vast majority of the first half or 3/4 of it. And that's when PlayStation was like, all right, we're behind. What do we do? Well, we've got this franchise called Uncharted that's doing really well. Let's make more of those games and see what happens there. And from there, you get them acquiring, Sucker Punch and making Infamous one of their flagship franchises. And you get The Last of Us, and you get Horizon. So
I'll never forget the day they got Insomniac, man. I was primary Xbox at the time, and I was like, ooh.
Yep.
So
it's all that's what competition does. It is good. The bad part is, this tribalism. Like, it's more on the consumer side of things. I do think that definitely the companies do stuff that's not good too. Like, well, I won't get into that right now. But the really ugly part of it is these people who put down, if they're like they have an Xbox and they love Xbox, and they think that part of being a big Xbox fan is putting down people who play on PlayStation. Like, that crap is so lame.
Yeah, for those watching the stream, I'm literally just going to loop this freaking shot of you from Game On Daily's intro yesterday. I love it so much, dude. I didn't even see the intro, but I see this. And, you're wearing this Xbox shirt and you're holding up a PlayStation mug. You know why? Because you could just... I'm not saying everybody needs to own all these consoles, but admittedly, you have more. If you do, you have more.
Yeah.
And just being locked on this sense of you just you have to belittle the other guy. It's bullshit. I'm just going to be blunt. It's absolute bullshit.
It is, and it's 100%. And it's okay to feel disappointed if you only own one console, and then if you only own a PlayStation, and then you see that Microsoft buys Bethesda, and it's likely that you're not going to get Elder Scrolls 6. It's okay to feel disappointed about that, but don't make Xbox gamers, don't put them down because Microsoft did something that disappointed you. That's lame.
And I promise you, there's some things I've seen where it's like, well, you're not looking at the evidence. And then I'm like, dude, there is going to be so much different kinds of evidence that is going to be evidence to depending on how you see things. And that's the thing. There's just not going to be the answer. It's just whatever your preferences are. And you don't ever got to say stuff. I can't stand it. I have a viral video that's over 1 million views now, and I really need to turn off the comments on that video because it is so crazy. And this is the other fun part about competition is you get to potentially have fun with it too, To me, that's why back in the day, I liked talking about, the PS5 and Series X, whatever coming out, because I want to see what these guys do against each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun to me. It's not like I want to wave any flames and make them grow. It's just how are they going to outdo? It's like you're watching a sports match. And if you're into both teams, I want to see a good fight kind of a thing. That's fun. But, making it to another place, that's just poor sportsmanship, basically. So
yeah, totally. And if you're a diehard gamer, and you're really upset that one of these. Now I understand if you have an Xbox and you're trying to get a PlayStation, that can be tough. But let's say you have a PlayStation 5 and you're just like, man, Xbox is killing it, and I wish I had some of that. The $300 Xbox Series S, that's another example of something that exists because of competition. You can save up some money. Well, I shouldn't say you can. I understand some people can't, but if you have an amount of disposable income that allows you to save up some money, buy an Xbox Series S, subscribe to Game Pass for $1 a month at first, and then it's $15 a month after that. It's a great deal for what they offer. Just. That would be my recommendation if you can afford it. And you're.
I do have to say though, there's and we have to be careful about not diverging too much. But I have been telling people this is the first time I have actually owned the newest Nintendo console, which is an OLED. I have the OLED, I have a Series X, and I have a PS5 with the disc drive. This is the first time since the GameCube, Xbox, and PS2 era that I've had that. And I'm going to tell you what. I'm a little bit miserable. And I say that because, God, is there so many choices,
Yep.
I think I saw a tweet from you where it's I just want to be able to play these games. And I'm like, it's hard making the time for that, ain't it? When there's more choices.
Yep.
And but that's eventually what we're going to be doing. They're just going to keep, you made, and, we're not talking about the Activision Blizzard deal. Because, again, I feel I'm not quite on the level that Asa was at Game On Daily, but I am a little bit tired talking about it. But if they're going to have COD, then, you're going to have to find other ways of having a first-person shooter that can compete with that. If they're going to have Elder Scrolls, then you're going to have to make an RPG that can compete with that, And they did that with Horizon Zero Dawn. That was their first big open world game, and it was great. And Breath of the Wild came out, but it's just competition. It's just what it creates games like Horizon was created. It creates games, it creates deals, and it can create a fun show to watch if you don't let it get out of hand. So
Yes.
that's pretty much the preaching. But I am going to read a thingy from the chat, which is Patrick saying, competition is a double-edged sword. While it keeps developers on its toes and produces quality games, it often devolves into an empty pissing contest when the market plateaus and contracts. And also he says that loop of view was great. 10 out of 10. I agree. I totally think it is. And Jacob Nov, competition is good, but for example, people say that they don't want to buy a Bethesda game that they like because it's an Xbox exclusive. When the same people said, or example, want to play Spider-Man or Street Fighter 5, they buy a PS5. And I don't know. That's what I mean. Like, it influences choices sometimes where you want to go, but maybe exclusives don't have to be the only way. That's maybe what the Game Pass deal is, and this conversation could go so many ways. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you were making a point a couple weeks back. I can't remember if it was. I think you made a video about it. But anyways, like
the quality
about exclusives our exclusives kind of going away? I don't think they're going away, but I do think on the Microsoft side of things, an exclusive is so much different than it is on PlayStation. Like on Xbox, you don't need an Xbox to play Xbox exclusives. If you have a PC with a half decent graphics card, you can
phone.
play most. What's that?
Or a tablet. Or a laptop.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. So, I don't know if Sony is going to go that direction or not, but on the Microsoft side of things, like if you want to play Starfield, and you've got any of those devices, you can do it. And a good internet connection, I will say that.
Yeah, definitely good internet connection. But, chat, what do you think of competition? Is it overall good? Is it overall bad? The live stream, there is a poll, and it says 80% think it's good. But maybe you disagree, and that's fine. We could all agree and disagree. It's fine to disagree, but don't shout about it, kind of a thing. Or just mostly belittle people, I think, is the part that I'm trying to get at. But what do you think? Let us know in the chat in the comments. And, oh, golly. I see 54 minutes. I'm so glad. Cool.
Nice.
Chat, we'll be looking at the chat really quick. We're going to look at a patron shout-out message or two. Maybe anything you have to add us with that we didn't cover this week. And we're going to play a good game of me trying to guess 20 questions this week because Josh did it last week with his freaking Hail Mary. But I want to hit this patron one first really quick. So feel free to add us if you're live in the chat. But this was Joey's. Capone had a neat one. I don't know if either of us are going to have too much to say about. Capone was featured last week as well. How will Warhammer 40K Darktide do? It's developed by Fate Shark, which is good, but every other video game set in the Warhammer 40K universe so far, most say is at best okay, except for Space Marine. Josh, I'm not sure if you have anything on the Warhammer series. I have a feeling not. Am I correct?
Warhammer is a total enigma for me, meaning like I do not I've never played a Warhammer game, and it seems like every Warhammer game that comes out is a totally different genre. Different. I know it's all the same universe, but
it's a big franchise that I feel like a lot of folks don't play, but it is a big franchise.
It must be big because they keep cranking out these games, and I did see. I think it was at one of the previous showcases. There was it Space Marine 3?
Yeah, Space Marine 2. I admit, when I saw that looked dope.
and people seem very excited for that. So, but yeah, as far as my own personal experience goes, I cannot speak to that franchise at all.
Yeah, for me, 40K, I can somewhat speak on it, not as a Warhammer fan or anything, but just specifically Darktide, because I remember seeing that in the Xbox July showcase in 2020, and I'm like, this looks kind of cool. It's kind of a Left 4 Dead looking game. Graphics look fire. It's a next gen exclusive. It is going to launch day and date on Game Pass, which is pretty cool. I think it's releasing in November, so I kind of hope late November, so it doesn't have to compete with some other things releasing in early November. And it's ultimately going to really depend on how good the game is, because I personally feel kind of like how Josh here might feel there's not enough stealth action games out there, maybe. 100%. Yeah. I feel maybe there's not enough notable co-op first-person shooters, and that's why people are excited for Back 4 Blood to kind of bring it back. Maybe it's something I miss in Halo Infinite, but we might get it in Darktide. So it just depends if it's going to be really good, and it might stick out in that genre. Is pretty much my thoughts on it. But the other one is, let's see, is this the Gaming Duo podcast? My boys. I hope to have them on in the next probably 3 episodes here, but they're actually a patron, believe it or not, and they're like, so what's your favorite and least favorite gameplay mechanic or gameplay loop in video games? So like they left examples of like rail sections, sliding and dodging objects, backtracking, puzzle solving. Least favorite and most favorite game mechanic. I don't know if anything pops out to you instantly. Yeah, I could try to gun to my head say this.
Well, so I can go with what at least lately has been my favorite.
Okay.
If unless you want to.
Yeah, you say favorite, I'll say favorite, least favorite, least favorite. Yeah.
So my favorite lately has been games that provide. This is like a kind of an overarching thing, but provide incentive to replay levels through like checklists or like things to do, achievements even, not necessarily
totally
achievements.
Optional. Totally
yeah,
optional.
not achievements
Yeah.
in like trophies and the achievement lists that are on, outside
Right.
the game. I mean, in game, Hitman 3, one of the reasons that game just completely got me was you play a level and you assassinate your target, and then it's like, here are
There's
like 5
so
other
many ways.
yeah, here are 5 other ways you can do it, and each one will give you an achievement in the game, and then it ranks up your score for that level. And I recently played Midnight Fight Express, which does like you play a level, and then after you play the level, it unlocks all the achievements that you can get by doing it in a different way. Metal Gear Solid 5 does the same exact thing. You play a mission, and then it unlocks achievements that give you incentive to replay the level. I love that in a game.
Yeah, I would agree on that. If I have any favorites, I don't know if I have a hardcore favorite. That's a really good one. I do like when there's just new ways of approach. That's why I'm loving As Dusk Falls right now. Like, you could have so many different ways you go about that story. I really like. It's something I have recently learned is I love builds. I love being able to make a certain build for a character. Like I recently played God of War 2018. And there's ways in that game that, yeah, you could make Kratos like a brick powerhouse and just smack things hard. But then there's also the runic thing where you can make him super magically powerful. I love that. I love that as an option in games where and Elden Ring's a good example too, of just being able to make combat-wise, you specialize in something. That's probably, I don't know if that's a gameplay mechanic, but I guess that's more game design. Is there a least favorite thing you could think of?
As far as gameplay mechanics, I know that there are probably a ton that I could think of if I had some time, but like one that comes to mind that I've experienced recently is like poor checkpointing in games, where you
poor
get past
when
you get past like a certain really hard part of a level or a part of a game, but there wasn't a checkpoint at the beginning of that part of the game. Like that might be me just being a baby, but I hate it when I have to play a significant portion of a game to get to the hard part and then do that hard part. And I think From Software games I think are some pretty bad offenders on that.
Maybe until Elden Ring. But even then, in Elden Ring, there's some part. Yeah, anyways, yeah.
But Elden Ring mostly, and even Dark Souls 3, which I talked about earlier, is a lot better at it than previous. Like Dark Souls 1, oh man, I didn't finish that game, and part of it was.
I've heard horror stories about that, man. Just how far you would have to go through everything to get there again. Yeah. My thing is definitely like it just popped up to me, and it's literally the reason why I had an addiction to Minecraft Dungeons. Fun fact. Because again, that was a game that you could make a build. What I freaking despise though is just RNG elements. I hate RNG elements. That was the thing that stopped me playing that game is I wanted this certain glove with certain enchantments on it, and I had to go through the same level like 100 times, and I still wouldn't get it because of RNG elements. And Yu-Gi-Oh, same thing. If anybody knows, my crippling addiction this year is Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, fun fact.
Yeah.
And there's like booster packs in that game that I'm like, damn, man. So I hate RNG elements so much.
Yeah, I'm
Such
with
fun
you.
little thing.
Returnal was a big offender of that. Like
Ugh.
you'd spend 90 minutes on a run, and if you didn't get the right, at least for me, if I didn't get the right gun to take out this particular enemy that always crushed me at this certain part of the game, I was probably going to have to start over and do it all over again. So annoying.
And there's Steffi in the chat who I know loves puzzle solving, but she says puzzle solving is never necessary for me, but love it so much whenever it's implemented. I can't think of a least favorite right now though. Yeah, puzzle solving. I remember you, Steph. That's something that is your jam. But
I love me a good puzzle as well.
yeah, just not too much. There's some games that I'm like, oh come on, kind of a thing. But anyways, folks, it is time for a rousing round of 20 questions where I will hopefully outdo Mr. Josh here from last week, who I can't remember if anybody remembers how many he got it in. We were trying to talk about that. I know it was more than 8. I feel like it might have been 11, but I'm going to shoot for 10, even though I have 20. And I will be guessing this week, and he will have the answer. So let's load in a rousing round of 20 questions.
I did have access to the document. I don't think I can see who submitted this game. But I do have a game submitted by somebody, so maybe once the game is revealed,
I think there was
out in the chat.
Potentially Joey, gaming podcast duo. I think Capone. It might have been one of them, but Nutshell. Let us begin.
Let's see. Open a doc here so I can just tally how many.
Oh, you're responsible. That's something I didn't do last week.
Because well, if I don't keep track of how many questions you've asked, I know I'm going to lose count at some point. Okay, so
and to explain this reason, yes, go ahead. Let the question begin.
Yeah, and if you need to do any explanation, go for it.
Yeah, we're just doing 20 questions of yes or no answers that I have up to 20 yes or no questions to figure out whatever game that the community has submitted for me to guess. And yeah, we do these at the end to encourage a friendly good game, like the console war competition. But all right, is this game released post 2000?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah.
These are easy questions to answer.
All right. And chat, you can feel free to, if you're watching live, to put them in the chat as well. But Josh is responsible tallying it. Was this released post 2010?
No.
It's not released post 2010, so it's between 2000 and 2010. Is this a console? When this game launched, was this a console exclusive?
No.
Ooh, multiplat, third party. Ooh, I got a good one. Is this game rated M? M for mature. Standing by. Interesting though.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, this was rated M for mature.
Correct.
Okay, so it's not an exclusive. It's released somewhere, give or take 2005. Rated M for mature. Oh, this is a good one. This Okay, this is a funny question. Is this game, is this IP, I'm just gonna say, connected with any of the Xbox first party people that are taken or in the works?
No.
Ooh, that ruled out a lot. Let's go. Okay. So yeah, there's no Bethesda stuff, no Activision stuff.
That's a good question.
That rules out a lot. Like, yeah.
Would you say this is a pretty
action-heavy game?
Yes.
What are we at?
That's 5.
That's 5? Oh,
5
man.
questions.
No, I think I asked 6. Because I see Steffi keeping track in the chat, too.
So you've got, was it released after 2000, after 2010, rated M, was it related to any Xbox Bethesda games, and is it action heavy? That's 5. Did I miss one?
Rated M for mature, or...
I said that one.
Okay. Well, here, Steffi might have it in the chat, but anyways, just trying to ignore stuff. Okay, I'm gonna stop the music for a second. Okay, so you said yes to action heavy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. A reluctant yes.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah, I do those like soft yes or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, soft yes.
Is this a Capcom game?
No.
Damn. Is this published by a Japanese publisher?
No.
Oh. I should have just started with that.
Yeah, that rules out a lot.
Yeah, I should have did that first before Capcom. Dang. So it's not by action. You were pretty hesitant about the M rated too, so maybe that has to do with the action part. Are you playing as a human in this game?
Yes.
Okay. Damn. I'm already at the spot. I didn't get a Hail Mary. Is the action in this game primarily through guns?
No.
Ooh. Oh, man. I don't feel like I'm ruling out a crap ton of stuff, but I don't feel like it doesn't help that it's not exclusive. Shoot.
That does make it tough. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So 2000, 2010.
It's hard being on that end, isn't it?
Yeah. Was this released? No, damn. Okay. Was this on the 360 PS3 era?
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
That I have that as number 10. That was question number 10.
Okay. All right, you should open the stream and look at Steffi's things because she's putting stuff in. Yeah.
The funny thing was, I was having trouble finding the link earlier to the.
Here I could maybe put it in our Discord. Oh, okay. It was on the PS3, Xbox 360 era. Soft yes to action heavy. It's M rated. Not console exclusive. That doesn't necessarily. Is.
There we go.
Would you say okay? Would you say this is from a very identifiable franchise?
Yes.
Okay. Is this okay? That kind of answers my question then. Damn. I was gonna say, is this part of a franchise?
I'm looking at the at Steffi's chat.
Oh man.
Yeah, she's got 11. Good for her.
Good for her.
She I thought I was like right on top of it here, but she definitely.
There must have been just one that was missed.
Yeah.
I'm honorable. I'm a good competitor. Good sport, even though I'm not close. All right. So this was a part of the 360 PS3. Did I phrase that in the way, like, how'd you take that? Because I feel like I meant to say, was this released in that era? And is that what you took it as?
Phrase what?
The whole, like, was this on the PS3 360 era? I might have said it like that, but I meant, like, was it released during that era and on those kind of a thing?
I took it as, was it released for those consoles during that time frame? And the answer to that is yes.
Okay.
And thank you, Steffi, for keeping track and keeping, I guess, me honest.
Shit, dude. I am full. And playing as a human, that was another one. I think I asked, and you said yes.
Yes.
Shoot. I've narrowed out a lot of general stuff. Now I need to get specific. Okay.
And it is a very identifiable franchise.
And it's not part of any of the repertoire of Xbox owned or in the works stuff. Is the primary means of is the violence, is the action in this game primarily by a sword?
No.
Okay, how about this? By a melee. Okay, no, that's fine. No, I already asked it. It's fine. Damn. So it's not a gun. It's not a sword. Is this a 3D environment? Like, not the graphics, but I mean, like, in terms of navigating the world. It's not like a 2D stuck side scroller kind of a thing. It's like Mario 64, where you could go any direction.
So basically, is it a fully 3D environment? Is that the question? Yes.
Okay.
So by Steffi's count and now my count, that would be 14.
Shit. Is this an open world game?
Yes.
Ah! Whew, okay. Because that was the era we were kind of transitioning to that. So I'm like, please say yes. Please say yes. Okay, cool. Far Cry. What else? Frick. We were transitioning to that era at that point. Multiplat open world games. That the primary means of action wasn't by a guns or a sword. Does this game have an interesting art style? Like an identifiable art style? It's not just, like, in my opinion, I consider all PlayStation games, they're all realistic graphics. But if you look at something like Borderlands, that's very much Borderlands art style kind of a thing. Or it's different. It's not just real.
Based off of that, I would say no, it does not have a interesting or stylized art style.
Okay. It sounds like a soft no, maybe.
I would flat out just say hard no on that one.
Okay. Hello, Jacob, Nike, Matthias for live stream. Damn. Okay, this open world thing is the biggest kicker, and you said it's an identifiable franchise, or from an identifiable franchise, in your opinion. Well, I at least can't lose this. I already asked more than you, but I have to, like, at the least not fail.
You're at 16 right now.
Damn, what open world is this? The primary action. The primary action, that's where you got me, because you said, I was like, would you say this is an action heavy game? And you're like, yeah. And it's M-rated. Took a bit to think about that. But it's not by guns or swords. So what's the action? Are you using weapons for the action in this game?
Yes.
Okay.
And if I remember, you said primarily swords. And I said no, it's not primarily swords. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe it's a mix then. Maybe it's a mix then. All right, I gotta wrap this up. That was 17, I think. Yeah.
That was 17. Yep.
Dang. I need a Hail Mary. I need a Hail Mary. I need a Hail Mary. How? Is this an RPG?
No.
Dang. All right. All right. I literally, all I can think of is Far Cry.
Been 18. Yeah.
There were so few open worlds in this era that I've already ruled out, like Elder Scrolls and I've already ruled out Bethesda and Capcom and Bandai Namco. What if I could at least get like the publisher, developer, or something, because I've narrowed it down so hard. Okay, this is a real Hail Mary question. Is this this is stupid. No.
I mean, you've got 2 questions left. You've actually got one and a guess.
And I want to wrap up the show too. Shit. This is a silly question. Is this franchise represented by any of the characters in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate?
No.
Frick. That's another like
I know.
That's like another Xbox One where it's like I can rule out a lot of franchises by asking this. Wow.
So now if you get it, it will be some feat of basically telepathy.
Because I have one question left.
Yeah.
Is the character you play as in this game female?
No.
Shit. All right.
So that now by my rules, it's so the 20th question you can ask, and then the 21st.
You just have to guess. Yeah, like that's it. When you ask 20 questions, that's it. You've asked everything. You have to just ask it after that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with everything to my knowledge, I was hoping it was Tomb Raider there, but that was Square Enix, which I know there's like a Western Square Enix and a Japanese Square. I don't know how that works. And then they sold off that property, but I just Hail freaking Mary. I'm not getting this. I
want you to get it on a Hail Mary. That would be so awesome.
With everything in mind, I'm gonna be so mad. I'm not gonna. Okay. All right. Is the game for this round of 20 questions? Is it? Damn it! It doesn't light up.
I will say, you were thinking Tomb Raider. Just remember, you did ask, is it open world? And I said yes. So
that's right. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's not everything I'm about to guess. I've ruled out. That's the problem. I was about to say Dead Rising 1, but then it's like, wait, that was Capcom. Okay. Is the game Far Cry 3?
No, but man, you were like,
damn,
you got the publisher on that one.
I did.
So it's a Ubisoft game. It's Assassin's Creed 2. I don't know how you didn't like Assassin's Creed, like maybe the biggest open world franchise in the world.
Oh my god! It makes total sense.
Yeah, and so and it is action heavy, but it's also like that's back when Assassin's Creed had some stealth going on. So it's like soft yes on that one. I didn't know quite how to answer that one, but that was the only question I was iffy on.
I see Nike in the chat. We don't play those games. Oh, we can play those games, but like, I will admit. So, and I've said this on a show before. I have not played a single Assassin's Creed. Yes.
I was wondering if it was like up your alley or not.
Yeah, but I'm well aware of the franchise. Like that's popular enough that like that's totally fair. I hate when people say like, oh, I haven't played it, so that makes sense I didn't get it. I'm like, bullshit. It's popular enough to at least know some things about it. Yeah, and that one makes sense about the weapons too, because you're not like always just using a sword or maybe you got like kind of variety of stuff. So
yeah,
damn. Ubisoft, of course it was Ubisoft. They were the one that were like ushering in open worlds. God.
Yeah,
damn.
well, that's why I know sometimes like your mind just doesn't go places, but yeah, I was thinking like just get on the Ubisoft track. You mentioned Far Cry 3 or Far Cry at some point. And I was like, just go with that. At least then we'll have the publisher and.
Well, at least I got the publisher. Well, dang. So in terms of competition, Josh got his game last week. I did not get mine. So
it's tough when there's only one of you. I will say, like with on GameScoop when they do this, it's 3 or sometimes 2 or sometimes 3.
It's got to be something notable. That's the thing. I hear some things on that show that like it's super retro. I do see Jacob in the chat. I was trying to avoid the chat the second I saw this, and I didn't want to guess it, but he put like Batman Arkham City, and I was like, damn, that's a good one. Guess. But I didn't think of it, so I don't want to say it, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, folks. Yeah. Anyways, that was the panel for today. There was a lot of big topics we talked about, like freaking, what is friendly competition? What makes a game come back? And many other things. But Josh, thank you very much for being here today for another episode of Codename Good Game. I think I will be giving you a break next week. We'll talk about that after, but we'll be here next week. If he's not, who knows? Josh, thanks for being here. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much for having me again. And if anytime you need me as a guest or want me as a guest, I am here to fill this seat. It is a pleasure. So I look forward to whenever that is.
I love it, man. And I see Nike Boy in the chat. Josh 1, Kibiji 0.
Yeah, not that we're keeping track or anything.
We're just having a good day, a good game, and a friendly competition. All right. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in. We will see you next time.